right, everybody. Good morning, and how are you? What kind of accent was that? All right, let's get going. We've got a busy day ahead of us. It is Monday morning, a brand new week, and from tomorrow, a brand new month. Joining me, Leigh-Ann Mole, live from her own personal studio just down the corridor from her bedroom, and also in our actual studio just down the corridor from the rest of Rivonia is Mashiane, Mash. And how are you? How was the weekend, everybody? How are you guys doing? All right. There's
all good.
Taking care of things. Yeah, how was your weekend? What did you
do? There seemed to be a lot of Halloween stuff going on, judging by the neighborhood WhatsApp groups.
Yes.
But it's quite funny how, we're trying to adopt the American traditions by having trick-or-treating. But with us, we've got to send out warnings to the groups. Hi, we'll be trick-or-treating. So if you hear your doorbell, if you hear your gate intercom ring, you'll know it's us.
Yeah. Please don't shoot anybody. If you see, if there's any, activity outside your house and it sets off your alarm and a monitor net come knocking, it's because of the children.
And the one couple said, unfortunately, we might be out, but just check through the window. If you see a blue light on our alarm pad, then you'll know that we're not there. All the surprise is taken out of it. Hey.
Well, I didn't see any neighborhood WhatsApp stuff because we didn't have any trick or treating in our neighborhood. I wasn't here anyway, so it wouldn't have made any difference to me. But apparently, my little nephews went to a neighborhood nearby, and in that area they all do trick or treating. So I don't know how it works. Do those people in that area then have to provide sweets for everyone who comes?
Yes, because remember the tradition is the kids will say trick or treat. So in other words, if you don't give us a treat, we're going to play a trick on your house.
Right.
But that doesn't really happen.
So it's basically extortion. I mean, that's what
Halloween
is. It's teaching children at a young age that you need to learn to extort money out of other people. when you've done nothing to earn it. That's a great lesson to teach children. Mash, did you dress up for Halloween at all? Let's see if Mash can. We can't hear you, Mash. You're on mute. There we go. Hello. There he is.
I dressed up for Halloween.
I saw everybody on Instagram made a big effort. Like, it's definitely become a big thing in South Africa. So you made no effort. You didn't do any Halloween stuff. No, you're mute again. Let's give Mash a little bit of time to catch up with what's going on here.
So you were away, Gareth?
Yeah, I did an event in Sun City. First of all, there's so much to this that is just kind of weird. Like, I haven't been to Sun City in a while. I remember I went with Ben just to go on the rides in February, I think it was. And that was really fun and childish and like completely cool because it was just like a getaway that I think we both needed at the time. And it was a hell of a lot of exercise for one weekend. But it was a beautiful thing to see. And this is now the third week in a row of, actual events that I've been at, where there've been dinners and awards and people celebrating, a year of incredible work. And I went to host the Specsavers Award. Specsavers. I mean, they're all over the country. Incredible company. They've got optometrists all over South Africa and Namibia. And they really have expanded beautifully over the last 2 or 3 years. They haven't had an event, though, an awards event or a celebratory dinner for a while. So it was good to see everybody doing that stuff. And, these events obviously cost lots of money and they're difficult to organize, especially post-COVID. And it's good to see people doing that. Obviously, there's a major spillover effect for all kinds of business down the line. The bus companies, the table decor companies, all these companies that used to have week after week, there was business. And then suddenly for like 2.5 years, there was nothing. And to see them doing that again is just very, very inspiring, I think. Oh, there goes my power. No, I can't hear you, Leigh-Ann. Now you're on mute.
I was on mute because of the RD dolls. But yes, stage 2 back this week.
Now, stage 2 is not so bad, right? Is stage the higher the number is, the worse it is? Because I can never remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it should only be around once a day for us. Should.
Wow, how lucky are we?
I know, cause for celebration. Mimosas all round.
So listen, I just got to say quickly for these guys at Specsavers, and honestly, when I go and MC an event, and the last thing I did for them was in 2017, so I have done one before. It started off as a family-owned business. This family from PE, a guy called Brian, started the whole business years ago, and his son now runs it, he says, better than ever. They've grown, which is also a great story because so many businesses are struggling. So congratulations to them. But the really impressive thing is, there isn't a South African business from Adcock Ingram, who I went to last week, are obviously a client of ours. They do sponsors of Brave, which bring you, series like Beyond Madness, which we've done with them for 3 seasons now. The week before that was MSC, the shipping company, which now does cruises all over South Africa and the world. And they're bringing a new ship here in I think early next year. So there's exciting stuff happening. And what really impresses me, there isn't a single company that I've encountered in South Africa that doesn't also do something really good for the community, that doesn't also do incredible work for people who are not customers, just to help. So these guys at Specsavers for probably the last 6 years have been giving free and very, very discounted glasses, spectacles to kids. A lot of kids at school, especially if they're in township schools or in poor areas of the country, rural areas and so on. There's no way for them to figure out even if they need an eye test. So they were giving away free eye tests thanks to the optometrists, free frames. They were getting heavily discounted lenses from overseas and helping these kids to be able to see. Because how are you meant to learn things if you can't even see properly?
Yeah, for sure.
Now they've started a new branch of shops called Audiology. They're going to do hearing aids to help people to be able to hear properly. And again, they're doing this really cool thing where, if you're a security guard or you're a domestic worker, you can't afford a 40,000 Rand hearing aid. Who could?
Jeez.
And they're now going to do as good a deal as anywhere and really disrupt the market by allowing people to come in and get much, much cheaper hearing aids that work just as well and help people to do good things. So I think it's terrific. And well done to the team at Specsavers. They didn't close one store during lockdown, or all 12 that were damaged or lost during the riots last year in KZN. They've all reopened now. And they managed to pay their staff every single month regardless. Now, that is incredible.
Sure.
Good
going.
Yeah, I love hearing stories like that because we can sit here and complain about how bad things are. But when I get to host these people at an awards dinner or whatever, I get to announce the awards. I get to meet the people behind the business, get to meet the people who win the awards. You hear the stories and you go, wow, this is actually quite an incredible organization. And I think across the board, you're going to find, if you work with all of these people, every single company has a story like the one I've just told you about Specsavers. It's really good to hear. So I was there for Friday and Saturday. A really nice time. I had lots of fun. I do have to say, though, that, as much as I love Sun City, and I always have, and it's like meant to be the Vegas of South Africa, they've got to spend some money there. It's looking very tatty and torn, and it looks like it needs some serious maintenance. Somebody at Sun International's got to start upgrading things there very shortly, or else it's going to fall apart. Not good.
Big job.
How are you, man?
I am good, thank you, Gareth. How are you guys?
Good. Good. You got the studio up and running.
Yes, we did. Oh, it's been such a morning, but the weather is looking good. For the first time in a while, we're not boiling half to death or freezing.
Yeah.
So that's a good start of the week.
Very nice. So you didn't get dressed up for Halloween, which we were talking about just a little while ago. I saw just thousands and thousands of pictures. I went through my Instagram yesterday because I hardly checked social media over the weekend. And I suddenly realized, like, wow, a lot of people went to massive, massive effort. I think for makeup artists, Halloween must have become their big payday because,
It is.
you know, we've met and spoken to a few makeup artists, especially the special effects kind of makeup.
Mm.
You know, the ones where you have people put in, eyes where it doesn't look like you have a pupil, and people who do like scars and blood and all the special effects Hollywood style makeup, and those people look like they had a bumper weekend.
They
Yeah, for
made
sure.
money. Everybody, I saw quite a number of people actually dressed up like vampires, slutty vampires, of course.
Of
But
course.
it was such a variety of outfits, and I saw some clowns as well this past weekend. Just people walking around Sandton dressed like clowns. So it seems like lots of people
That's like every weekend.
Yeah, someone said to me it was very difficult with all the sluttiness to tell the difference between Pride and Halloween.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah, and then they also
Yeah.
had a big party for the Zulu king and his proper enthronement. And our government issued this kind of recognition, and I saw lots of the politicians were down in KZN to partake in the ceremonies around the Zulu king's enthronement. So that also happened. It was a busy weekend all round.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lots of celebration, which is good.
Yeah. And plenty to celebrate. I mean, listen, we are heading towards the end of the year. It has been a tough year. Last year was also tough, and the year before. So people need things to look forward to. And if dressing up for Halloween or going to Pride or attending an awards ceremony or having some kind of end of year function in your company can just add a little bit of excitement and celebration to your year, I think that's a terrific thing. I think we must all get behind it and start living again instead of this bizarre kind of pause that we had on our lives.
Yeah, back to life.
Right.
I saw one of my favorite Halloween costume was a guy who had dressed up like the game of Twister, which is where you have to put your hands on the certain colored dots.
Yeah.
And you end up in an entanglement. So he was wearing all white, and then he had the colored dots on his chest, down his torso. And at the back was the dial that you have to flick to spin the arrow to pick a color. But because it's standing up on his back, gravity makes it always go to red, which is at the bottom. When he turns to the front, the only red dot is over his wiener.
Yeah, I mean that's a cheap way to get some attention of the wanted or unwanted kind, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So lots of things to get into. We have, speaking of makeup, there's also lots of people who've been talking plastic surgery recently, because I think around this time of year people are looking in the mirror and maybe it's not Halloween and you go, ah! Even though I met someone on, was it Thursday or Friday last week, and she said to me, I need to get some Botox or whatever. So clearly people are thinking about this stuff, but plastic surgery, which is obviously a whole step beyond Botox, is definitely on the menu. And I've just got back from Turkey, where apparently people go for hair operations,
BBLs.
Big, what are the
Brazilian butt lifts.
Yeah, boo.
That's it. And people are thinking about plastic surgery. So there are cosmetic procedures which seem to be part of what everybody is looking for at the moment. Are South Africa's doctors famous for any of that kind of thing? Cosmetic procedures, maybe lifts, operations. What are we famous for?
In South Africa, it's a bit of a shaky one because we don't really do many cosmetic procedures to begin with, like the rest of the world. Like I'm sure.
I heard we do a lot of teeth. Like people come here from all over the world to get their whole mouth redone, because we've got some pretty skilled dentists and dental surgeons and oral hygienists and that kind of thing. So we've got that, or am I wrong? I mean, if I've got
No, you're right.
Yeah.
There are even places. I don't want to mention any names.
Yeah.
I went to one during a bit of an emergency. I have to get these Botox injections in for bruxism, which is the clenching of the jaw. I have to get them in my jaw, and I was traveling at the time, so I went to one of these dental places, and you could tell it was in a touristy place in Cape Town, so it was kind of rigged up for tourists. And yeah, the waiting room, and remember, dentists are synonymous for applying Botox as well.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah. Now the service is usually given by dentists as well.
Okay.
And they're the best positioned in terms of knowing where facial muscles are. But yeah, the waiting room was full of tourists coming in with having to touch up their Botox and do all of that sort of thing. But yes, and I mean, imagine paying for a full new set of teeth in rands if you're from the UK or US.
That's it. So it's partly the cost, but it's also the skill of our surgeons. I'm not surprised that people might come from all over the world. We've also got, we've got pretty good, a pretty good medical. What would you call it? Not industry, a medical profession. They've got a pretty decent reputation all over the world, and because they're cheap and it's in rands, that makes a huge difference. So rich people from all over come here, and then they'll spend, a lot of money or a little bit of money by comparison with their own countries, getting whatever procedure it is, plastic surgery procedure, and then because they've got extra money lying around afterwards, because they've obviously changed into rands, they'll go on a safari or they'll go away to some retreat for a week so they can recover. And then they come out of there looking fantastic, go back to their home country, and people go, you look fantastic. Did you have a holiday? And they go, yeah, just a nice relaxing time. Meanwhile, they've had a whole lot of surgery.
Yes. And now, guys, I just want to share with you guys some of the most popular procedures in different parts of the world. So
I knew you would know this.
So we're going to start off with India. What procedure do you guys think is most popular in India? Just off the top of your head.
Maybe hair surgeries, because I know that's where you can get a lot of women grow their hair there so that they can sell it, actually.
Really?
Am I right?
Yeah. Unfortunately not. Gareth, what do you think is most popular in India?
I don't know. They are training more doctors and teaching more people at a kind of institutional third kind of tertiary education level than anyone else. I would say pretty much any kind of surgery. India has a reputation for churning out lots of very competent doctors. So maybe it's just general plastic surgery, facial surgeries, that kind of thing, nose jobs.
Well, not exactly close. So in India, for men, it's actually a part of their status symbol and part of their ranking in society. One thing that does really determine that is their height. So how tall you are in India determines your status in society. And main reason being, the taller you are, the more respect you command. The taller you are, the more likely you are to be a model, to be an actor, or to just be in any public position. So the most popular surgery.
Just before you even finish that sentence, I've always thought that height is something you can't do anything about. And I've heard about these terribly painful procedures where people have their legs made longer. They like have their bones in their legs either broken and reset, or I don't know what they do exactly, but it sounded like absolute hell to me, and I wasn't even sure if it was true. Is there a way to make yourself taller?
There is a way to make yourself taller, and this is the most popular cosmetic surgery in India. All the men are doing that. Well, not all the men, but most of the men are actually doing this. And it's basically the procedure of breaking your bones in your lower leg and then just inserting rods in your bones and then inserting some sort of cast, a metal cast, to actually hold your bones in place up a few millimeters apart. And then your bones are going to grow back in that gap. And then they repeat that over and over again until you're taller. So that is the most popular procedure in India.
Meanwhile, there's suddenly a surge in the presence of long-legged men with short torsos.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll just say it straight up. I'd rather be short, and I'm obviously saying that as someone who isn't short, so I don't know what it's like. And it must be very frustrating for you to, kind of run under tables without bending your knees or whatever else it is that short people do. But I'd probably rather do that than go through this procedure you just outlined. Now, it sounds bloody horrible.
It sounds pretty horrible.
So some of the other guesses, by the way, from some of the people who are listening. Big Balls Sibanda says dick enlargements. Is that true? Is that it?
Well, we're gonna get to that actually, because I have quite a few. I learned a couple of things this past weekend about these different surgeries in different countries. So, there's also your usual surgeries that like you're used to seeing all the time, such as a tummy tuck. In what country do you guys think a tummy tuck is most popular? A tummy tuck is also known as an abdominoplasty. And it's basically just removing excess fat and skin around the abdomen, the abdomen, and creating a smoother, flatter abdominal profile. So what do you think this is most popular?
It's basically gunt removal. I would say for gunt removal, probably. See, it's hard to figure these things. Maybe South America, because again, like it's not necessarily where you'd think. These first world countries. It's sometimes these third world countries that specialize in these things. I have no idea. You want to guess, Leigh-Ann?
Yeah, I was trying to think of maybe countries where there's a lot of beer drinking and you get beer bellies and then perhaps lose the weight and need the tummy tuck. Or it's countries where there are lots of women having children.
Well,
but I don't know.
Your first guess was correctly, and a lot of beer, and it's Australia. All the way
I was
back in
going
Australia.
to say that.
Wasn't even on my radar. Okay, so Australia, they do gunt surgery. That's very
yes. And then Brazil is best known for facelifts. So they do the largest amount of facelifts that side. And then the UK is known for ear surgery, surprisingly. I thought they'd be most popular for teeth.
Yeah, because they have horrible teeth in England. Okay, so ear surgery, would that be to make your ears smaller, to pin them back, that kind of thing?
So basically, ear surgery improves the shape, position, or proportion of the ear, and it can be used to treat large ears or protruding ears. Ear surgery is popular in the UK, where financial support is available for some residents.
Well, that's because, I mean, look at the king. Hello.
Yeah, the King of England has enormous ears. You're right.
He does. He absolutely does. And then there's another surgery, eyelid surgery. I'm sure you guys can guess where this one is popular. Eyelid surgery. Let me just describe it first. Eyelid surgery is where they basically double fold. It's a double fold procedure that creates a distinct upper eyelid fold. It's most popular in countries where people's eyes are a bit more smaller in profile.
Must be Asia then. Must be like
correct.
Japan, Korea, that. But I need to go for that at some point because I've got these very droopy eyes, right? So I need to go and have those. I need to go and have those done eventually. Well, that's what someone told me. I probably won't. But
there are quite a few women going for it now because so many of the makeup techniques involve a lot of eyeshadow techniques. And I have that as well, where I have like I'm trying to remember the word for it now. It's like an overhanging top eyelid. But because of the trends, women are now
looking like, don't want to go and have it done and then I look weird. So no,
like you've been seen to by a train from behind in your sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Seen to by a train. Leigh-Ann, you're so diplomatic this morning. No rude words.
That's the thing with these surgeries is that you'll always end up looking weird. Main reason being that, especially when the rest of your face has aged, in proportion with each other. So your whole face looks, for example, 35 or 40, and you get a surgery done to make your eyes look 25. Something is going to look off about you.
Right.
When your eyes look 25, but the rest of your face looks 40.
Hooded eyelids. Thank you, cutting stunt. And
yeah, hooded eyelids. I've seen a couple of people who you can't pick out what's wrong with them, but you see them and you go, something's different there. And it's not always bad. I mean, sometimes, even the people who don't necessarily have the best surgeon can come back looking okay. But you always think, wow, there's something different about her, or something, she's changed something about her appearance. And then you eventually figure out, she must have had some.
Yeah, it's all in the subtlety. But like Tracy Bard says, you just don't want to look like an Eskimo who sees a fault fire for the first time.
Well, Venetia says, my aunt did the droopy eye surgery. It looks amazing. She did it for her 60th. Do it if you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is very successful. I just...
Tubble wants to know, where can I get a penis reduction? I can barely walk.
Yeah.
Hey, Tubble.
All right. What are the other famous places for getting all these things?
So that is all of it, but some of the popular cosmetic procedures in the entire world, with the numbers of how popular they are, number one is breast augmentation, with over 1.6 million people undergoing this procedure. And then number two is liposuction, with 1.5 million people undergoing this procedure. And then you have the eyelid surgery. A lot of people do this as well. This procedure is actually really, really popular throughout the world. So that's something I'm also considering now. Considering. I think let's all get eyelid surgeries, guys. Let's just all go.
Sure, I mean, why not?
Yeah, and then lastly,
of putting out the money, and it's extra. Of course, we're all just sitting around with lots of extra money, so why not? And then the last one.
The last one is a rhinoplasty. So it has just over 1 million. And yeah, I mean, the rhinoplasties are much more lighter, aren't they, compared to a full-blown nose job?
No.
Is it the same thing. Same thing.
Rhinoplasty is nose job. Where in the world would you go to get that done properly?
Rhinoplasty, to get it done properly, it's actually America. America is very popular for it. And the main reason for that is because rhinoplasties are performed all over the world, but nobody does it as well. We've seen so many botched up nose jobs. You don't want to end up looking like Owen Wilson. That's very important.
Hi, I'm Owen Wilson. Apparently, according to G-Star, Thailand has the most extreme plastic surgery. You can become a lady boy. Many transvestites go there to get the chop. I think you mean trans people in general. But
I think you mean transgender, and I think you mean bottom surgery, but yes.
Yeah, let's avoid that word.
When last did you hear the word transvestite? That's a good word. All right. We didn't get to penis enlargements, which is very disappointing.
Yes. So penis enlargements, I'm not sure where they might be popular, but I am guessing everywhere. Everybody wants a larger penis. Let's be real. Everybody wants one.
Except Tabo, who wants to have his reduced. Because, he's got needs his penis reduced. All right, well, there we go. So we've given you a menu this morning of all the different things that you can do for yourself if it comes to like giving yourself a Christmas present this year. You look in the mirror, you're sick of seeing what you see, make it better. These are the things you can spend your money on. Dear Linda says, what a waste of money. I agree with surgery on a person that's disfigured for some reason. The rest are all going to die sooner or later. I'm so anti-cosmetic procedures. I've seen some very scary results afterwards. Well, yeah. And Lucky brings up a reason that people might be thinking about this more than usual. Lucky says a lot of these Instagram influencers are getting their perfect bodies in Turkey, which we've discussed already. Yes. But Instagram is the important part of that conversation, because I think because of Instagram, lots of people are suddenly thinking about, stuff that they wouldn't have thought about before. And you can't always dress like a slutty whatever it is for Halloween and look hot for that one day of the year. You need to look like that all year. So people might look in the mirror and go, time for that nose job or that hooded eye lift or that penis enlargement or that gunt removal or whatever it is that you're looking at. So,
but one thing I'm really liking nowadays about Instagram, Gareth, is the fact that it's no longer so much about how you look. It's becoming less and less about that day by day. Despite Instagram moving, or rather copying TikTok more and more often, it is moving away from the whole perfect body, perfect image, perfect life scenario. And
no,
that's something I'm
it isn't.
enjoying seeing. It is.
No, it isn't.
It really
isn't.
is.
No, you know what?
Definitely is.
No, they're saying they're moving away from that stuff, but people aren't buying it. I mean, you could put Lizzo on the front of every web page in the world, and you can say how great she looks and how body positive everything is because people like Lizzo, but people aren't believing that. They're not doing. Otherwise, they'd stop going to gym. They'd stop eating ice cream. It's not true. It's just not.
No, it's not so that they can aspire to be like her in terms of
so they can accept her.
Accept the way you are. But yeah,
no,
I know it's something that you'll never accept, so it's fine.
I just don't believe it. I think you guys are you bought into this bullshit argument. I don't think anyone looks at these body positive people who are clearly not like healthy or good looking by any standard. I don't think anyone looks at them and goes, "Oh, that's so sexy." What they're doing is they're lying. They're going along with the lies, like, "Oh, Lizzo, you look so great." Meanwhile, deep down inside, they know they're bullshitting. They just know.
Yeah.
No, it's not about that. It's not about glorifying what she looks like. It's about me looking in the mirror. It's about me looking in the mirror and being able to say, I can still feel sexy even though I don't look like such.
It is representation. It's just representation.
Sure,
because so many people are,
we're talking about like cosmetic procedures that some of the richest people in the world do. These are not people who are positive about themselves. It's not about acceptance. Otherwise, they wouldn't do all these things. So it's just bullshit. You're speaking with a forked tongue, basically. People are saying, "Oh, I love it. Body positivity. Everyone looks sexy."
No, but you're talking about two different sets of people here, which is a bit confusing.
I'm saying
you're talking about people who go for cosmetic surgery, and you're talking about people who accept the way they look. It's two different sets.
I'm saying if everybody had unlimited money, they'd be changing things about their looks all the time, which is why rich people do that. Because if they were truly happy with themselves, they wouldn't do any of that. So let's not lie to ourselves.
Wait,
come on.
Leigh-Ann, if you had unlimited funds, would you change anything about yourself? Let's do a quick survey right now.
Unlimited. No, I mean, I would do things to focus on my health for sure, and things that would be more convenient for me. But I'm certainly not going to go for a plastic surgery overhaul.
So no lipo, tummy tuck, six-pack insertion.
Well, let's be clear. In order to have a tummy tuck, you need to have lost the actual weight first.
No, but guys, listen, it doesn't matter how good looking or perfect your body is by comparison with, some famous celebrity or someone who's dreadfully ugly. A friend of mine just the other day said to me, he is going to be going to the gym this coming year, and he's going to sort out his legs. He doesn't think his legs look very good, and he wants a really, good pair of legs. And I said to him, there's some things you can't do anything about, like calf muscles. If you don't have them, you don't have them. He said to me, please. He said, you can get implants. Now he's thinking about that. This guy's not out of shape. This guy's not ugly. He doesn't need help. But he's looked in the mirror and he said, my legs look a bit pathetic compared to the upper part of my body. Now he's thinking about getting leg implants. People will always do whatever they can to improve themselves unless they've given up, So I think go for it. I'm not criticizing it. I mean, what I'm saying here is that anyone who's given the opportunity to improve something somewhere and doesn't take it, that's probably like they've given up.
That's how it can be perceived.
Given up given up or changed your priorities. Realizing that certain things are more important than the way you look.
Yes.
Ruth says it's about your own perception of yourself. Most of it is attributed to mental health issues. Gareth, what do? You look young. That's nice of you, Lubabalo, but it's not true. I mean, look at pictures of me from 20 years ago. I did, and it's very depressing. Stone Philosopher says, just fake it when you're out of direction. Carl says, I don't buy it for 1 second. Fat people are not treated as well. Lizzo must stop eating and have a few shits. Yeah, well, there's Carl with some straightforward advice. No, I would not change a thing. You've got to learn to be happy in your own skin, says Corona's boring. Well, yeah, sure. Okay.
That's what it's all about, because once you start, you'll never finish.
Yeah, and you see these people who get addicted to plastic surgery too, right? So
yes,
that's not good. That's not good. Anyway,
there's a false supermodel that you might know, Janice. I think it's Janice Dickinson. I forgot her name.
Yes.
She used to look beautiful. Now she's an absolute monster. So just Google her.
Yeah, she didn't choose aging gracefully, that's for sure.
We've got Dr. Hanan coming on to talk to us in just a moment or two, and we've always got cool things to discuss with him. But first, just 1 or 2 quick headlines. We need to see what's going on in the world. That terrorism warning has made things a little awkward between South Africa and the US. So Business Tech is reporting this morning that several large events and gatherings took place in Sandton, with citizens largely shrugging off a terrorism alert from the US Embassy. The embassy warned that there might be a terror attack. The alert was followed by other embassies, the UK, Canadian, French, German, and Australian missions issuing warnings to their citizens. But the president said it was unfortunate. He said that security structures in the country were frustrated by the lack of information coming from the US Embassy, but it assured South African citizens they would be safe. The police and other security officials were put on standby. All that remains is the diplomatic fallout. Speaking to the City Press and Sunday Times, various sources have pointed to a gathering storm between South Africa and the US over this matter. Deputy Minister in the Presidency for State Security, Zizi Kodwa, is on record stating that there will be repercussions for the US Embassy breaking protocol on this. Sources within the security sector have speculated that there may have been an ulterior motive in the US issuing the alert, such as setting the groundwork for installing a military presence in the country. So now things are just getting very, very messy between South Africa and the US. Nobody likes to hear about that. That's a little bit, it's awkward and complicated. The Gauteng Premier wants Soweto's Eskom debt written off. You know how much money Soweto owes the state power supplier? 5 billion rand. So if they're going to get their debt written off, how about the rest of us?
Yeah.
I mean, Mash, you don't live in Soweto. Leigh-Ann, you don't live in Soweto. I don't live in Soweto. If we don't pay our electricity bills, we get cut off like that. Why should they have their debt written off?
No,
Yeah.
What do you think?
It feels unfair.
It does feel unfair. And I know for a fact that even if this debt does get written off, 2 years down the line, it'll probably be 30 billion. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And also you can see, because there are elections coming up next year, this is a straight up election strategy, right? Get the people of Soweto, the largest township in, Gauteng, get them voting for you by scrapping their electricity bills. That's just not how you should play the game. When politicians start giving away free stuff that they aren't paying for, that other people have to pay for, because all that'll happen is everyone else in the country now has to cover for Soweto. So we will all have to pay for them. That's not fair.
At all.
Yeah. So that's Banyaza Lesufi, who said he wants 5 billion in debt to Eskom from Soweto residents scrapped. He said, Minister Godongwana, the finance minister, we truly appreciate how you respect negotiations. Can we safely assume that Soweto Eskom electricity debt and that of other townships is also scrapped as per our intensive lobby? Lesufi tweeted on Friday. Well, again, why should the townships be treated differently? We live in a country where everybody's treated the same: rich, poor, old, young, smart, dumb, black, white, fat, thin. We can't give certain people a free ride and other people have to pay for that ride, because it's not as if you can write off this debt and then it just goes away. Someone else is going to pay. And those other people who are going to pay are everyone who doesn't live in a township. Doesn't sound right to me. But you know what? It's all part of them just trying to give people free stuff so that they can get votes in the election. And the ANC is desperate, so they will do desperate things. Anyway, we spoke about the Zulu King being crowned and now certified, and there was a big celebration in KZN over the weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that later on this week. And Eskom blew 680 billion rand and hired 18,000 extra staff, but they can't keep the lights on. Now, there is a place where we can go in and be merciless and cut costs. Eskom, they've failed to provide the service that we pay them for, so cut them down. And speaking of firing people and cutting costs, Elon Musk has fired about, he says, 75% of Twitter's executives. And he says he got rid of them because they don't know what they're doing and they've ruined Twitter and they've made it a very unfair platform and blah, blah, blah. But it seems, according to some people, he just wants to avoid paying them 2.2 billion rand. That's according to Business Insider. But it's his business. He can fire them for whatever reason he wants. Yeah. You go for it, Elon.
And apparently they were given packages like $200 million, whatever packages in shares. And so they didn't get off, eating off the street, that's for sure.
Correct.
They're walking away full.
We'll see what happens with Twitter as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later on too. So coming up in a short while, we will be joined also, this is at 7:30, by somebody from Investec. We've done this incredible podcast series, which I've spoken about a few times on this show, and I want you to really listen to if you haven't had a chance to do it yet. But Caroline Edie van Wyk will be joining us. She's the brand editor for Investec, and we'll talk a little bit about the series Future Impact and what the reasons were and continue to be that Investec is so involved in sustainability, things around the impact of, environmental concerns, renewable energy, that sort of thing. And we'll find out exactly what Caroline and Investec's interest in this is. So stick around for that. Good, interesting conversation, I'm sure. But first, it is time for Dr. Hanan. It's time to check if we're going to be okay. And we rely on Dr. Hanan to tell us, yes, you're going to be okay. Calm down. Here he is again on a Monday morning. Doc, we're going to be okay, right?
Absolutely, we're going to be okay. Absolutely.
All right. So we got an email from one of our listeners, and it's similar to an issue that Simpiwe wanted to talk to us about, and she's also on the line. Simpiwe, who you know well, Doc. But let's start with this.
Good morning.
Let's start with this email from Rose. Rose says, given that Dr. Hanan specializes in trauma and anxiety, maybe he can give me some tips. I've experienced what so many in South Africa experience, being held up in my own home. Ugh, I'm sorry about this, Rose. She said, we had this happen to us recently. I'm not going to have the knee-jerk reaction and just decide to emigrate. COVID lockdowns showed me we're better off here. These criminals can take my stuff, but I won't let them have my home. Can you give us some coping strategies? And maybe you can talk to us about those. And Simpiwe, before Dr. Hanan talks about Rose's email, tell us your story, and maybe he can help you with yours at the same time.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. Start that again. Sorry, Simpiwe. No, go ahead. You're on mute. Mash. There we go. All right, go for it.
There we go. So my story is not as bad as Rose, but what happened was over the past year, I've had 3 instances where my phone was stolen. The first 2 times, I think I could justify it to myself because I was out, I was at the mall. But the 3rd time was a break-in in our house. And they took quite a number of things, including the phone. And I'm really not coping with the fact that there was like almost an invasion of my privacy. And it's been over like a very short period of time.
Wow. All right, Doc, where do we begin with this? It's not a rare South African occurrence. And I'm sorry, Simpiwe, I know, we've joked about your phones before, but this is not a funny thing. And people do struggle to cope with this, Doc.
Of course, we live in a country where that's the reality for so many people. And I always tell people the first thing when you go through a loss, and it's an incredible envision of your privacy actually having a home robbery, as well as your phone being taken. I mean, your phone is your life. Everything is on there, from personal information to personal pictures to communication with other people. Once that's taken away, even though they might not have access to that, somebody taking something from you that is so personal and so private can be an incredible invasion. And a psychological invasion. There's no question. So what do you do? First thing, in terms of the home robbery, make sure that on a practical level, you secure your home and that you feel safe. A lot of people just think that they can psychologically cope when your home is still vulnerable. So what I advise always to people that have gone through a home invasion or a robbery in their private or business spot is always make sure that practically on a physical level, you're protected. Our brains are designed to do one thing and one thing really well, which is ensure survival. And my brain, your brain, doesn't cope well when we're in environments where we don't feel safe. So the first thing that you should do is make sure that you're up to your security, make sure that maybe you call in professionals to make sure that these gaps in the security or these gaps in the vulnerabilities are taken care of. And make sure when you go to bed at night, you feel that you are 100% safe, at least on a practical level. We'll deal with the emotional stuff in a second, but on a practical level, 1 + 1 = 2, and you're feeling safe. When it comes to your cell phone, we live in a country where, unfortunately, that is a reality. Cell phones get snatched, and criminals, their method actually becoming much more sophisticated. I was actually a witness I went to a restaurant probably a couple of weeks ago in Parkhurst, and there was an accident right in front of me. Everybody popped up. This woman was apparently drunk. She drove into another car. She pops out. She's okay, and everybody gathers. And before you know it, an Uber driver stops. Nobody pays attention. An Uber driver stops right next to all this crowd gathering around this accident. And suddenly somebody comes from behind and snatches another person's cell phone that's standing there watching all this commotion going on and gets back into the Uber. So what has happened actually is the Uber was a pretend Uber. People don't pay attention. People's guard are low, or people think this is quite normal. There's just an Uber car waiting. But as I said, the method is actually becoming more and more sophisticated. So number one, make sure that you are secure. With regards to the cell phone, make sure that you are vigilant. Make sure you go to appropriate places. Make sure that you are well protected. Make sure that you're aware and alert to what's going on. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is what it is. And the key is really to adapt to the environment that we're in. And that's the environment that we're in. So number one, to use some POA, and to the caller or to the person that emailed, is make sure that practically you behave in ways that ensure your safety and security. Once that is done, just understand our heads and hearts work on two different frequencies. Whilst our heads can feel secure, our emotions are still, I'm vulnerable. And it takes your heart time to adjust to where your head is at. So whilst your head is going, I know what to do, I know how to act, my home is secure, my home is safe, I know where to go with regards to my cell phone, I know to keep my cell phone in my pocket or in my purse or my bag or whatever it is, your heart isn't there yet. And your heart needs time to adjust. So number one, do not avoid things that are reasonable. Do not avoid things that are reasonable. So superior to your situation, don't avoid the places or the friends or the situations or the environments that you would naturally like to avoid now because you're feeling insecure. Because the moment you avoid it, all you're doing is kicking the emotional can down the road, and later on it just becomes a barrel. It's much more difficult to deal with something if you don't confront it. To the home invasion, don't avoid, for example, sleeping in another house, or maybe at a friend's house, or rent out an Airbnb, or sleeping in another room. Yes, you can build up to it, but don't avoid it. And what I mean by building up to it, maybe superior to your point, you might want to go out and maybe go out for half an hour. And then the next time you want to go out for 45 minutes. And the next time you want to go for an hour, and build it up. To the person that's at home, you maybe want to sleep maybe with the lights on As an example, if you're very afraid, maybe with a security guard outside, maybe for a week, and then maybe you'll do it for 6 days, and maybe you'll do it for 5 days. But the point is, you want to build up to eventual complete confrontation to how you were a minute before this incident happened. So you want to go back to the real reality before it happened. And I need to go back to point number one, assuming that you are protected. You don't want to go back to the same situation if you're still as vulnerable or still as open to these kind of incidences happening to you. And then, so the first thing is make sure that you're practically protected. Secondly, do not avoid. And thirdly, and this is very important, immerse yourself in self-care and ensuring that you focus on what you can control. So immerse yourself in self-care and ensuring you control what you can control. There are many things in this world that we can't control, but there's many, many, many things that we can. So we think we can predict the next minute. We can't control the future, but what we can control is our sleep. We can control our diet. We can control our exercise. And people go, well, what is that got to do with the issue that I went through? Everything. Because if you don't sleep well, you're not going to cope as well. If you don't eat as well, you're not going to cope as well. If you're not going to look after your body, you're not going to cope as well. Ensuring you surround yourself with the right people, people that give you the nutrients, family, friends, romantic partnership, companionship. Make sure that you still go back to work. Again, do not avoid. I'll go back to my second point. Do not avoid life. Go back to work. Start creating routine and structure and predictability in your day. Make sure that there's self-care.
I just want to ask Simpiwe are you feeling, Simpiwe, because you always, to everybody on the show, you're this bubbly, happy person. And, I think it looks like you've kind of brushed these things off and you've got over them. What are the kind of lingering problems that you deal with? Are you afraid to go out? Are you afraid to do things? And how exactly has that changed your life, based not only on what you've already told us, but also based on what, Doc has just said now? Are you already implementing changes in your life?
Yes, I am. So the first two incidents, I was like, I'm not going to go out. I'm going to hang with my friends at their places or at my house. And then this third one has really shaken me up because I don't want to be home, but I also don't want to be out and about because I'm just like, it's not safe. And I think the first two times I was like, okay, cool. I was not being vigilant. I was not the one who put all these safety measures in place. But like this third one is like, okay, what do I do when I was at home and I thought I was safe and I thought I was in a place where I couldn't really lose anything. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, Doc, it's a difficult one because, as you said at the beginning of your description of the problem, is that this is an invasion of your privacy. It's in your own private space. And that is where a lot of people go, oh, okay, well, I can't stay away from the world when the world comes into my space.
Right. Well, we have to adapt to the reality of what it is. So there are places around the world where hurricanes is a thing. There's a place around the world where earthquakes are a thing, and you have to adapt to the reality. Nobody's bigger than the reality. You can rebel against gravity all you want, but gravity always wins. So we don't want to rebel against the reality of where we're living. We want to work with it and protect ourselves and adapt, but also stop focusing on only the things that are bad. Just focus on the self-care and things that you can control.
Right. Okay. Well, Simpiwe, listen, I'm very sorry that this happened to you. I'm always sorry when I hear from anybody that this kind of thing happens to them. But I think it's very brave of you to have brought it up now. And I know that this is upsetting to talk about. I can see like it's affected you to even bring it up. But you heard what Doc said. You got to deal with it in little baby steps. All right.
Yeah.
We'll get through this together.
Yes.
Everything is going to be okay. It's Simpiwe. You cannot let this define your reality moving forward. We're going to adapt, or we're going to do things differently. We're going to make sure that you are protected, and we're going to have a meaningful, purposeful life by focusing on what you can control. There's a lot of things that we can't. There's a lot of things that we can. We must focus on things that you can control. If I ask you, what are the things that are good that are going on around you, you can probably spell out a book worth of good things that are happening around you. And by the way, this is not at the neglect of the things that are bad. This is just, I choose to practically protect myself against the bad, but I choose with intention to focus on what's good and what I'm grateful for. So yeah, everything is going to be okay.
Thank you, Dr.
All right,
Han.
Simpiwe, very, very glad you could bring this up this morning and that you were brave enough to discuss it with all of us, because I'm sure there are loads of people who are feeling very similar to you this morning, and you've carried all of them into this conversation with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, Leigh-Ann, you've had similar things. Mash, I'm sure you have too. This is a reality of living in South Africa and, frankly, the world right now.
Absolutely.
All right, Doc,
and
thank you so much. Tough one. Yes, go ahead, Mash.
A very tough one. And what makes Simpiwe so much stronger in my eyes is the fact that morning of, I remember coming into the office and she told me, I remember she told us what happened throughout the weekend. Then when I came into the office, she was just smiling. She was just bubbly. And I was like, how are you smiling? I'd be sobbing right now if I were you. I'd be sobbing from day of all the way until. And she was just smiling. She's like, no, man, you know what? Life goes on. And I'm like, damn, you are stronger than I. You are much stronger than I.
But Doc, just quickly on that note, I mean, people who put on, a strong, they put their best foot forward, they put a brave face on, they go to work, they do the things that they've got to do, but the trauma stays for a while and you've got to work it out. You can't just ignore it.
No, as I said, emotions take a while to catch up to the head. So while Simpiwe feels, I know I'm protected, I know I'm fine, I know everything's going to be okay, but emotions are not there yet. The emotions still feel vulnerable and raw. But as she walks through it, the emotions eventually catch up to the reality of what she's experiencing and to the reality of what it is, and she will be okay. It will stabilize and it will be okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hanan Bushkin. It's always good to have you on the show on a Monday. And thank you, Simpiwe, for sharing your story. And everybody, there's some nice comments here, Simpiwe. Kim Jong-un, who's, of course, the dictator of North Korea, says, we love you, Simpiwe. So you see, I mean, to get love from North Korea, that's amazing. Rebellious Ruth says, Simpiwe, stay strong, you lovely lady. So sorry, Simpiwe, says Annette. Tracy says, big hugs, Sims, big hugs. So yes, I mean, lots of people who have lots and lots of love and support for you. And, having your house broken into is just so goddamn invasive. It's just so, you always feel like you walk into your own house after something like that happens. And it's happened to me too. It's happened to all of us. You walk into your own house and you're like, gives me the creeps, but you have to get through it. So, uzoba strong. That's all I can say. All right, everybody. It is 7:00. We'll be back with a whole lot more in just a short while. And stick around with Mash and Leigh-Ann and I for more. Simpiwe will be back on the show on Wednesday, and she's got a brand new podcast with Mash, which they're going to also tell us about. There are new episodes of that coming out too. So stick around. Lots more. Stay with cliffcentral.com. Don't go anywhere. Here is what you need to know in the break.
Hi, I'm Barrett Edelstein. Join me for my podcast, Celeb Savant. Today, I'm with Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
So right at the moment, I'm at home in London, but after I speak to you, I'm going to pack my bags.
3 of the members of UB40, Earl, Matt, and Jimmy.
Well, we're in the middle of a tour at the moment.
Career retrospective with actors, singers, and entertainment industry experts every Friday morning at 9:00 on cliffcentral.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
In the last few months on social media, there has been an increase of electric cars and government, those two search terms kind of being used by people, as a result of this new theory that governments are kind of colluding to get the petrol price and fuel prices around the world to increase to get more people buying electric vehicles. Why would the government want to do that? The theory there is that they want to be able to control when they turn on and off a car, for instance. So there's a criminal who's driving this car,
and they want to turn it off.
And needs to turn it off to kind of get rid of them. Type vibe.
Why can't you do that in a?
So that was one. You know,
no, I think it's a load of bollocks, but a load of rubbish. And the reason I think that is because
you can do that in a nice car, right?
You can do that in a nice car. You don't need an EV to do that.
Yeah.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Gareth just vanished, but we are back for the second hour of the Gareth Cliff Show. And in this second hour, I don't know where Leigh-Ann is. Gareth, you're back?
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know what happened. How embarrassing. I come back, say hello, and disappear again. Anyway, how are you? Let's get going. How are you, everybody? I hope you're off to a good start for this Monday morning. And as Mash says, the Gareth Cliff Show, second hour of this Monday morning, last day of October.
Yep.
Technically, today is actually Halloween. Technically.
Yes. Are you doing anything for Halloween today, Gareth?
Hell no. I didn't do anything over the weekend for Halloween. Why would I start now?
Ah, wow.
Sorry.
But speaking of the weekend, you guys know that I'm very much well into my health and my wealth. And I'm like a fitness junkie, not so much, but I think I am a little tiny bit. I think I'm quite the fitness junkie. And last week I went to the gym. I go to the gym quite often, maybe 4 times a week. If I'm pushing it 5 times, whenever I can, whether it's morning or evening, gotta push those vitality points. So I went to the gym last week. It was last week Tuesday in the evening for a spinning class. I enjoy the classes as well. The classes are fun.
Sure.
And there's a couple sitting in front of me. Well, at this time, let me just also reiterate that when I first got there, I didn't realize they're a couple. I thought they're just 2 people sitting next to each other. But now the guy starts pointing at the girl's towel while we're in the class. We're busy spinning there, cycling, and the guy's like, towel there. The girl passes him the towel. He wipes his sweat off with her towel. Cool, gives it back to her. At this point, I don't know they're a couple. So I'm kind of weirded out. I'm like, okay. So then I'm like, I thought, okay, maybe it is his towel and she's just holding it for him, perhaps. Then she uses the same towel on her forehead. And I was just disgusted. And then after the class, they even kissed. I was like, "Ay, Nina. Yeah. That's how I realized they're a couple. But it's something that got me thinking. And that is, would you share a towel, a sweat towel, with anyone? Not even a partner, just anyone.
Hell no is the short answer. No.
I think what's happened there is he's forgotten his towel. But clearly they're in the beginning throes of passion, because when you can get to that level of sharing things, you must clearly be in the spring of your love.
Yes, it must be still bubbling under. And I was so grossed out by this. I actually even tweeted about it. I was like, y'all, I'd rather be single. If sharing towels, sweat towels is what it takes nowadays, I'd rather be single.
No.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of using anyone else's towel. I don't even like, once I've used a sweat towel, even the word sweat, a sweat towel at the gym, I'm like, throw that in the washing immediately.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
You got to get rid of it.
I don't know. There are some things that couples do at the beginning of their relationship because they're so into each other that they don't do for long. They certainly don't want to do that for long.
Yeah, things like kissing each other when you first wake up without brushing your teeth. Yeah, that sort of thing.
You see it in the movies.
There's a meme I've seen of that, and it's like it shows people kissing each other first thing in the morning, but their lips rather, are replaced by toilets.
Oh no.
Yeah, you see that's kind of how I think it goes. But yeah, when couples start off, and you see it in movies as well, and movies are so unrealistic that these couples are, these people are so in love with each other. They want to kiss first thing in the morning, and you see people wake up in the morning, and they look great, and they reach out for each other, and they're like, oh, it's so good to see you. I had such a great sleep. You're like, oh, God, no. So sweat towels, absolutely fucking not for me.
Give me minus 10. Yeah, that's something I won't be partaking in anytime soon. It is disgusting. And yeah, I think it is the movies, Gareth, as you just mentioned. Movies do give people this idea that we should be sharing everything, including toothbrushes.
No toothbrush sharing, no sweat towel sharing. Try, if you can, possibly to stay away from each other during your toilet activities. If you want to keep the romance alive, keep all of that stuff private.
Even showering together is not really a thing for me.
It's not a thing, really. It's not a thing. Let's not do that, because everybody knows you have your different things you do in the shower. Maybe you wash your ass. Maybe you wash your under your arms. Maybe you scrub your face. Maybe you put on one of those face masks that some women do that look terrifying first thing in the morning. Just keep some of that stuff to yourself. Who knows? It's not Halloween. It's not Halloween every day. So let's not take the fear into every part of our lives. Can I ask you, though, just the other day I brought it up, so it's my fault, but I don't feel embarrassed anymore, because now everybody is putting up their Christmas decorations in the shopping malls. They're playing the Christmas songs already. We knew it was going to happen. November is usually like full Christmas season, and that's starting tomorrow, 1st of November. But people are already thinking about gift ideas, and some really smart people, like, they plan in advance. I've never really been the sort of person who could always get my act together well enough in advance to be able to say, okay, I know Christmas is coming. Let me go out and do a little bit of shopping, and just throughout the year, build up a reserve of presents so that when it comes to Christmas, I can go, oh, look, guys, I got all these cool Christmas presents for you. Obviously, that hasn't happened for me, but there's still time. What are the major gift ideas that everyone's talking about? And Leigh-Ann has a whole bunch of seasonal celebrations and unique gift ideas, especially for people who have everything. Now, I'm not saying that, most of us in South Africa have everything, but there are those difficult people to buy for. And it's usually men. I mean, Leigh-Ann, buying for the guys in your family is much harder than buying for the girls.
Oh, yeah, hugely. So one of the cool things that you can buy as a gift, which a person might not have and probably will not have, is something called a TheraFace Pro. This is part of the TheraBody line of goods. You get something called a TheraBody TheraGun. So
I have
now. Oh, do you?
Yes, it's very good. It's very good.
So you don't have the smart goggles, though, right?
No, just the TheraGun.
Okay, so the smart goggles would be in other words, this is a good idea, because it would have pleased you. But this is like a smaller face-targeted version that you wear on your face. But obviously it doesn't give you that like pounding massage that you'll get with the TheraBody, with the TheraGun.
Yes.
But this is a Bluetooth compatible eye mask, and it comes with 3 modes: focus, smart relax, and sleep. With smart relax, what's really cool is that it activates these like personalized vibration patterns to lower your heart rate and alleviate stress and anxiety. There's also a bit of heat that it uses as well, with the slight vibrations and gentle massages. And these things can relieve your eye strain and also help release your facial tension and help you fall asleep faster as well. And it kind of makes sense if you think about the times you've been for a facial and you've had a warm towel placed over your eyes that like makes you want to fall asleep immediately. So that's one of the ideas.
I'm sorry, I have to actually see one of these things to even know what you're talking about, because it sounds very complicated to me. Mash, describe it a little. It sounds so weird. I'm not even sure what kind of mental image to have with this.
So I think I'm looking at the right one. I'm not too sure. Leigh-Ann is this is not it, Leigh-Ann. This is not it.
What the hell's that?
No.
Jesus.
No.
It just looks like well, I mean, you're on the right track. It's like a bit of a mask type looking thing, but
is this similar to it?
Just search Therabody, Theramask.
It's a pair of goggles, but it vibrates. It sounds horrific.
No, it's very wonderful. Sleek looking, very nice looking design.
All right. Okay.
Okay. So another idea for those who might have everything. There are always a lot of makeup products, like you said, it's like Girl City when it comes to gifts.
Yeah, sure.
But something that you can have in your home is that's a very extensive list of gifts that I'm running through here. I'll get there in a second. Okay, here we go.
Carl says, by the way, I've never been attracted to a woman with blue teeth. Not buying the Bluetooth face mask. Also, people massaged pretty. Yeah, that's also true. I think that's a good point. Clown works for me. Okay, no, hang on. That's a whole other conversation. Dear Linda says, my ex-husband never understood why he was not allowed to use my towel to our previous story. Well, he's your ex-husband for a reason, right? Go on.
Okay, so there's a lot of like humidifiers and diffusers going on at the moment. Very, very trendy to have in your home. And this one is particularly trendy because of the design. It's almost like hexagonal, but in 3D and in amazing colors. So it becomes like a feature to have in the home as well.
Does it light up?
This blue thing?
Yes, it is the blue thing.
Oh, wow. So it basically puffs out humidified air out the top.
Yes, in different aromas. So this is Sage's Aroma B free cordless diffuser. And it's nice and abstract, so it's this nice accent decor piece, but it makes your home smell absolutely amazing.
All right.
You just add in like a few drops of essential oil or essential extracts into the diffuser, and you get this kind of whisper quiet continuous misting in your home.
Does it light up?
I don't think so. Not 100% sure.
Yeah.
This is almost like the Leigh-Ann Mole version of the Very Mark channel. She's gone and looked at all the things and now she's going to tell us what we can buy for Christmas.
You know why? It's because I did it 1 year, even before COVID. I decided to do all my Christmas shopping online. Way ahead of time, like 8 weeks ahead of time, and it was just the best thing ever. So that's why I've started having a look around. There's something quite trendy at the moment called Aloe Yoga, ALO, and it's a company called Aloe Moves, and it's quite a trendy thing to buy one of these membership gift boxes, and this you can buy as a gift. To give you an idea, it's about $199, but you get various levels, obviously. So what's nice is that anyone from beginners to experts can get 12 months, that's a year of unlimited access to yoga, fitness, meditation. They're all video classes, but they're like super sleek and modern. And it's all from world-class instructors as well. And you can just pop this onto you can watch it on anything, on TV, your laptop, your phone, your tablet. And it's all about mindfulness and good health. So I think it's quite a nice gift to give someone.
Fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, $199 is about 3,600 South African rands. So it seems like quite a little investment. It's cheaper than a gym membership for 12 months.
Yeah, exactly. And it includes all different types, which is great. For those who love their coffee, it's always nice to give an updated coffee type gift. And this is an Ember mug, temperature control smart mug. It's very sleek looking mug that looks like it's on a saucer, but it's actually on, some kind of heating device, all wireless. And that keeps your drink at a perfect temperature. So whatever you like, you select that temperature, and you can select it via your app, and that you can just have this sort of never cooling down coffee, so you're not in a rush to drink it.
Because God knows there's nothing worse than a cold cup of coffee in the mornings. And you got so like wrapped up in all the things that you've got to do that morning that you forgot your cup of coffee, and it's sitting there on your desk, and you've done everything except drink the coffee, and now it's cold. Yuck. Ugh.
And then you put it in the microwave, and the milk coagulates, and
oh God, no.
Not good. So yeah, those are just some ideas of things that people probably won't have.
Listen, Ancient Ether says if you gave someone that yoga gift, they might think that you're calling them fat. Is that right?
Well, that was my first thought. But the thing is, if somebody is already into yoga, fitness, mindfulness, meditation, you're basically giving them something that is what they would have loved for themselves. So yeah, it's
not like you're giving the gift to Lizzo. 100%.
Jeez. No, definitely not. And obviously, the gift of wine would be greatly appreciated as well. So,
for you, that's always a good gift,
an annual wine gift subscription or something like that will always go down well.
I mean, I'll never forget just how happy Leigh-Ann was just to go through the macro liquor catalog. I mean, that made your week.
Exactly. Those are still fascinating.
Right, exactly. All right.
In my family,
go ahead, Matt.
In my family, the gift is always just alcohol. Hey, I've noticed a lot. Yeah, in most Black families, especially when you're young and you're gifting the elders, the elders don't care about anything apart from booze. Just buy them a bottle of Hennessy or a bottle of whatever, and they're good to go. They're happy. That's all they need.
No, I'm not the world's biggest coffee drinker, but I like this coffee mug. That looks like something cool. Oh, there's something else. There's something else. Prince Harry's brought up his book, and he's decided, screw Grandma. She's only been in the ground for like a month, but here it is, my book called Spare, with me looking really, really sad and thoughtful on the cover. So who's excited to buy Prince Harry's book for Christmas? Anybody?
A lot of people are, and he's already planning his book tour in early 2023. The reason why it's called Spare, any ideas, Gareth?
Well, because there's an heir and there's a spare, and he was the spare. Prince William is the heir to the throne. He was the spare in case something happens to Prince William. So he's obviously all his life he's felt like the spare. It must be so hard to be a prince.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the heir and the spare.
Oh, look at that.
But I think it's apparently going to be really quite tell-all, and his book tour, I think, starts in America and then goes on to the UK. So that could be quite awkward. Hopefully he doesn't run into anyone from the royal family. But I mean, what's the worst that can happen? He can be stripped of his title, and his children can be stripped of theirs. That's really the worst that can happen.
He could also be hated by everyone in Britain, which I think it's getting close to. I mean, you didn't see the warmest reception in the world for him and Meghan when they were there for the Queen's funeral. Here's a gift idea just quickly while we're talking about terrible gifts and good ones. Good ones being those things Leigh-Ann said, terrible ones being the Prince Harry book, and this is possibly a terrible one. It looks like the best recipes for unexpected guests, and you open it up and there's a gun. What do you think of that? Nice.
I love this.
Would you buy that, Mash? I mean, that's a good one to just leave lying around, right?
Yes. For my coffee table. I'm actually looking for books for my coffee table right now, so that'll be awesome. Unexpected guests. I'm like, just read a book. I'll be right back.
You come back and they've left the house. They're shit scared.
That's exactly what I want.
Well, let's just look at this Prince Harry book for a second, only because people all over the world are still very much into, his story and Meghan's story and everything else. Has Prince Charles, or King Charles now, has King Charles got a plan to, to tackle whatever Harry reveals in his book? Because they must have got a little crisis committee together and decided how they're going to react to all this stuff. Do you know anything, Leigh-Ann?
Well, all I know is that if he did have a plan, we'd probably know about it from a royal insider, wouldn't we? They would have already told us about the plan. But no, the whole thing is that it could be just stripping of titles.
Really, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing much more that he can do. What can he do? And the thing is, there are more and more people, and because I work with a lot of UK brands, and a lot of them are startups and younger people, really do side with Harry and Meghan and are anti-royalists. So there are a lot of people who are actually rooting for him and really want to read the book. Mm-hmm. And those who are so anti-royalist that they just don't even want to be bothered by any of it at all.
The only problem with those people that you're talking about who are very pro Harry and Meghan is they can't read. A lot of them didn't go to school. So a book is not really the kind of thing that they might be interested in. They wouldn't know where to start.
Well, then they can listen to the audiobook, which, by the way, is being voiced by Harry himself.
Oh, God. All right. Okay. Well, you know what? Good luck to him.
Those two are on a rampage. They're on a rampage, those two. From podcasts to audiobooks and books. Mm-hmm. They're on a rampage.
Yeah, it's going really well in that family, clearly. Magazines are more entertaining for a coffee table, Mash. Some advice from Ancient Ether. Yes. Magazines are still a thing. You could still buy them at certain shops, but they're nowhere near what they used to be. I mean, listen, I used to have subscriptions to a couple of them. Now, I can't remember the last time I picked up a magazine, but that just shows you how things change. Now, speaking of change, and I think that this is probably very relevant to all the things that we've been discussing over the last few weeks, years even, it's definitely one of the hot topics in the world, and it seems to be something that everybody has on top of mind. It's really about sustainability, about the changes that are going on in the world around us, and how we can deal with those changes. I'm going to introduce you in a moment, Caroline Edie van Wyk, who is the brand editor for Investec. And she is a former broadcast journalist and TV producer who made the leap from the newsroom and editing into Investec. And she's now officially called the brand editor, but around the bank, she's known as the storyteller. They've done a terrific job, Investec, of putting out really interesting content, not just with cliffcentral.com, but with a lot of other businesses on their own. They've brought to light some really interesting stories, and Caroline's very good at this. She says the best part of her job is when she gets to be a roving corporate reporter, going to different provinces and communities and telling the stories of how Investec is having an impact from the perspective of the recipient. I've mentioned a couple of times on the show that this series we've just done with them called Future Impact is absolutely amazing. It's worth listening to, and if you haven't listened to it yet, you are missing out. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but let me welcome her to the show. Caroline, it's so nice to have you on. How are you?
Good morning, Gareth. Terrific to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And Monday morning is not anybody's favorite time, but I'm sure that talking about something like this makes it worth the while, because we've done this series. It's coming to an end. Future Impact. When you use words like future, people tend to get nervous because they start thinking that it's either this crazy view of this impossible future reality, which is unattainable, or they start thinking, it's some dystopian thing. Whether you like it or not, that's the kind of division that happens here. Having listened to a few episodes of Future Impact, it's really a very, very positive and interesting way to look at things. I'm thrilled that we've done this series. Do you want to just explain to people what the intention was from the beginning?
Sure. I mean, I think, as you say, our future is actually, unfortunately, rather a precarious one. And the size of the problem that we're facing when it comes to climate change and the growing inequalities across the world, but specifically in South Africa, can be a little bit overwhelming. And I think that is what happens is people get overwhelmed by the size of the problem, and then they feel that they can't make any sort of impact, and they kind of switch off. And what we wanted to do with this particular podcast was, obviously from an investor perspective, was to highlight some of the amazing work that we're doing with some incredibly innovative and bright partners in many different areas of sustainability. I mean, sustainability is a huge topic. It covers a lot of things. But ultimately, what we wanted to do was both educate our listeners without making it kind of boring and a sort of gloat fest, but educate our listeners and make them realize that there actually is a lot going on around you that is cause for hope, and that there are various things that you can do as an individual, as an investor, to move the needle forward in a positive way, so that we all can kind of leave a positive impact and leave a world that's actually inhabitable for our children.
See, I have no problem with companies that are doing good telling us about that. I think a lot of people miss out because they don't even know that some of these things are happening. I mean, Investec is involved in so many really, really good projects, so many things that are making a difference in the world. You know, people tend to think, well, you know, you stick to your knitting and you should just be doing this or that. And maybe, you know, banking is all you should do. If that was the case, we'd have a lot more problems, because thank God companies like Investec are involving themselves in areas where people desperately need a little bit of help, whether it's financial, whether it's in terms of expertise, time. Is it difficult to choose? And you know all the people at Investec. Is it difficult to choose which projects you guys want to get involved in? Because there's so many people who have good ideas and come to you and say, "Hey, can you help us?" Or is it very easy? Can you quickly identify and see the things that need your help the most?
I think there's two ways to answer that. So obviously Investec gets involved from a sort of traditional sort of CSI perspective. And some of the episodes in this Future Impact podcast series covers that. But obviously the biggest impact we can have is using our core business and our core skills, which is obviously financing, and coming up with unusual and innovative ways to structure various sustainable financial products. I mean, obviously that's where we can make the biggest impact. And I think, obviously I'm no banker, but I think our investment bankers and our export financiers and our equity fund managers, they all look very carefully at what they're going to get involved in, because the opportunity is huge, but one has to be very careful with how you do your ESG scores. There is a lot of greenwashing going on out there, and social washing, and you have to just be very careful that some companies that look terrific on an ESG scorecard are in fact terrific, because you could just get a very good ESG management consulting firm that kind of fills in the cracks for you, you know? So what we try to do,
explain what greenwashing is, because I don't think anybody knows about this outside of sort of CSI and corporate stuff.
So ESG, which is an acronym for environment, social, and governance. Those are the three sort of pillars that companies and organizations get. You have to get an ESG score, and based on that ESG score, various investors will either be keen to invest in you or not. And what happens is there are ways and means to make a fundamentally not particularly sustainable business look quite ESG shiny, and that's called greenwashing. And sometimes businesses will highlight the good they're doing to the environment. You know, they're putting billions into renewable energy, but they actually still have, you know, equally billions invested in oil, and they just make your eyes go to the positive rather than the negative, and then you don't realize the total impact. That's greenwashing.
Yeah, I mean, we could call it corporate bullshitting, but I mean, I suppose that wouldn't be the case.
But even NGOs do it, you know.
They do, absolutely. And we live in a country in South Africa where all of this stuff doesn't just give you a score, but it also can make certain companies feel a little more secure or insecure, depending on which political and environmental stuff they tend to get involved with. And we know lots of companies are just trying to keep everybody happy all the time so they can do their business too. It involves government.
Which is impossible.
It is impossible. So, all right, I just want to quickly go back to the series, and then I also want to talk about you being the storyteller, because I think that's the That's the key thing here that makes this a little bit different. If we go back to the series, for anyone who hasn't listened to it yet, I've explained in my own words a couple of times why people should listen. But why do you think people should take a listen to it? What kinds of stories are we trying to tell here?
So, Gareth, this was a very ambitious project. It's one that actually took me quite a while to get over the line. You know, when you're not in the business of making content like you are lucky enough to be in, and you know, I've moved away from Sky News and ENCA and places like Urban Brew, where my chief role was to produce content. Sometimes it takes quite a while for the execs and the important stakeholders to realize the return on investment on creating content. And of course, we've been down a road as Investec, and we've got a very lean, but I would say very efficient content team, a little content team in the center. And most of them are my ex-colleagues from journalism days. And we happened upon podcasting quite a few years ago, sort of a few years after you started Cliff Central, realizing that this was a massively growing medium. And we thought that we would be missing a trick if we didn't include this in our sort of content marketing stack, because A, it's a younger audience, and B, most importantly to me, as you were saying, as a storyteller, I was getting very frustrated with creating these amazing, what I thought were pretty good videos, and that sounds like I'm being boastful, but videos that added value. And I was concerned that people were only watching them up to a certain point.
Right.
So podcasting, sorry, I've digressed a bit from the question you asked me, but the reason why we wanted to create this series and why people should listen is because podcasting allows you to actually, it gives you time with your audience. That's the beauty about podcasting. I think that's why I love listening to podcasts, you know. So this Future Impact series allows us to delve into a huge variety of topics, and not just superficially touch the surface. We speak to the thought leaders in a particular area, but we also speak to the people that are actually being impacted on the ground. I think that's one of the differences between this and another sustainability podcast, for instance. So we will speak to the likes of an Investec's Barry Shamley, who's one of our top equity managers, around what in fact is sustainable investing, take us through the spectrum of, you know, ESG versus sustainable investing versus impact investing. But then we will speak to outsiders around, so we spoke to somebody called Morandeni Mafumo, who's the founder of Kusini Water. And we talk about how the investment in his company enables him to use this really innovative water filtration system, and how it's impacting people in rural KZN and Limpopo with clean water. And they were spending hours a day collecting water. And now they have the opportunity to do other stuff, you know, like work and go to school.
So you mentioned people, but also animals, and I think, you know, that's something that's close to a lot of people's hearts. You don't have to look far in the world to find someone who doesn't want to do something for the environment and for our incredible, and in this country, our incredible, you know, natural resources, whether they are animals, places, tourism, the things that go along with that. My favorite episode in the series is still the one with the rhinos.
Episode 2, yay!
I mean, what's happening there is effectively, and you know, people will complain, they will moan, they will say things, but they don't actually get their hands dirty. Investec went and got their hands dirty. You guys don't just give the rhino, the baby rhino sanctuary money. You actually get involved. And I mean, it was amazing to hear in this podcast the sounds of what's going on in that part of the world, to actually meet the people who are doing the hard work of trying to conserve, look after, protect, and essentially, you know, kind of keep a little piece of this going into the future. We may not have rhinos if it isn't for things like this.
Exactly. And Gareth, you know, I think, as you say, that touches a passion point of so many South Africans. There's a lot that we can be proud of in South Africa, but there's a lot that we get down on, and rightly so. But our natural heritage and our reserves, and the fact that we've got these incredible species that brings tourists over in their droves, that is one of the biggest, you know, contributors to our GDP. the fact that we are really we were on the brink of losing Rhino. When Investec Rhino Lifeline was born, it was a sort of it was a carrying call to say we cannot let this happen, not on our watch. And so one of our key partners was this Care for Wild NGO, and it was such a wonderful opportunity to take the host of the podcast, Sibenzile, and the producer Spike, to actually visit the Care for Wild Sanctuary. And as you say, you get so moved. It's impossible not to be moved by what's going on there. They have thought of every avenue where they can make impact. The whole thing is on this wonderful, sustainable cycle. So not only do you get to hear in this particular episode about how they're conserving wild rhinos that are orphaned from poaching. And they have over 100 rhinos there. And it keeps on getting bigger and bigger. And some of these rhinos have actually given birth to calves, which I think in terms of just a case study of what success looks like, I think that is a pretty concrete one. And it was amazing to hear the sounds of these babies and the suckling and the feeding of the milk. Yeah.
And I mean, we don't want to get into the depressing part of this, but a lot of those little baby rhinos are there because their mothers have been killed and by poachers. Yes. So, they rescued, because people often go, well, what happens to the babies? I mean, this is always the saddest part of the story for those people who feel for these animals. But, there's plenty of optimistic stuff going on here too. A lot of people say that technology and the opportunities that the future provides are going to make the world not only a friendlier and a more equitable place, but also a better place. I mean, for everybody. You don't just need to be one of those people who's got a wind farm as one of your investments, or a solar farm. And people in this country are really taking renewable energy very seriously. I think especially because we'll take any energy we can get seriously. But it's exciting to hear about where the developments and where the big thinking is. And that's obviously where you guys at Investec can tap into all of your terribly clever people who make these investments, and you can use them as a bouncing board, really, for so many other good ideas. So what's your favorite part of this? I mentioned I love the rhinos, but what's your favorite part?
I love the rhinos because that's where my heart is. I love conservation, and I'm a bush baby. So yes, that would be my favorite one. But I think from a learning one, I probably found the opening podcast the best one for me. I wasn't up on what exactly the differences between sustainability and responsible investing was. Like, what is the spectrum? And I found the laying that out in terms of what the differences are and those examples really solidified for me what the actual sustainable financial landscape looks like. So from a learning perspective, I liked number 1 the best. From a being moved perspective, I liked number 2 the best. But I also, there are highlights in all of the episodes. There are 8 of them. And, there was great debate about whether we were making a mistake by covering too many topics in one series. But as our sort of first sustainability focused gambit into podcasting, we felt we needed to give our audience an overall view of all the different touch points that Investec has. And we haven't even done that. But it just means that if you are interested in conservation, there's something for you. If you're interested in export finance, there's something for you. If renewable energies is where you want to be, then there's something for you.
No, I love it. You want to say something, Mash? Go ahead.
Yes. While on the topic of favorite episodes, my favorite episode of the series has to be that reimagining education episode about the NPO in Mpumalanga that is doing such amazing work and actually increasing the pass rate in the area. So that was amazing work there. And I was actually going to ask you what is your favorite episode, but Gareth has already asked you that. But when yes.
I was just going to say a lot of the time, the word sustainability frightens people away because they think, oh God, it's the politicians getting together at COP, whatever it is, 22, 23, 29, 40.
Or it feels like hard work. It feels like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to concentrate on doing something now or change my lifestyle.
Do you feel that that's something that we still have to get over? Because people do that. Unfortunately, the politicians have made us feel a little bit less than enthusiastic about that word sustainability.
I couldn't agree with you more. That was when we were all huddled in, in your offices at Cliff Central. We were talking about what do we want people that listen to the series to leave feeling. And other than educated, we actually really wanted them to feel hope and empowered, because, we can all, it is very, very disheartening when you go through all these COPs, and then the sort of key outtake is everybody has great intentions, but nobody's really doing much, right? Especially when you are sitting in a developing world and you think, the developing world has had all their time to develop and to pollute our oceans and our atmosphere, and now we are just sort of getting going, and now we're going to be taxed out of existence, and there's going to be a carbon tax, and people also get quite angry with that. So the geopolitics also makes people angry.
That's absolutely right. I couldn't agree.
Yeah. I just think that this particular podcast, especially the last episode, we try to say, okay, look, we've given you an overview of the different areas of sustainability. We do try to anchor it in the SDGs, which is also something that kind of turns everybody's switches off, the Sustainable Development Goals, and only because that's really the kind of agreed blueprint to which we can all agree that we're trying to achieve something, and it kind of makes it a little bit more tangible and a little bit more easy to measure. So in each episode, we talk about which SDGs this is impacting. But the last episode is entirely dedicated to hearing about from 4 individuals across, so one's an NGO, one's an author. We hear from Tanya Dos Santos, our global head of sustainability. And we also hear from somebody called Farhan Campbell, who runs a little sort of startup that's in Cape Town called EcoWalla. And the whole point of this podcast is to enable people to realize that, in fact, if you are egalitarian minded and you are trying to do something positive that somehow makes this world a better, cleaner, more sustainable space, then you are impacting the SDGs. And maybe just take the time to think about how you can extend that impact. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be massive. Like, you don't have to give up meat forever. You know what I mean? Like, maybe just think about volunteering somewhere, or I don't know, having a meat-free Monday.
I think it's really cool, and I've got to give them credit here that they've brought someone like you in from a corporate point of view, because your background is media, which is something all of us can understand, and we can kind of associate with the work we do. And telling these stories is important. Businesses need to learn to tell stories, just like individuals become good storytellers. Otherwise, you don't want to spend time with them around the braai. And that means you don't want to spend time with them online either. And what's clever about this is that when you tell amazing stories, when you are able to articulate your position in the world, as Investec are trying to do with all of this content that they do. And by the way, the sustainable discussion that we're having here, the future impact discussion, is just one of many that Investec has. What stories do you really love telling? Because this is something that you've grown up doing. This is something that you love doing. It's something that you come from. And is it difficult, or is it easy sometimes to get these things, as you say, across the line? In other words, to get the much more corporate minded, and there are a lot of people at Investec who are terribly, terribly clever, and they know lots and lots about finance, but maybe they aren't the best storytellers. How do you persuade them to do this stuff?
Yeah, look, a lot of it is nagging, good old school nagging, and a lot of, but in fact, I think there has been a noticeable shift amongst the bank and amongst corporates, actually, that the time of organizations or companies, boldly telling you how brilliant they are from a first person perspective is over. Audiences are saturated with incredible content. They can stream it at their fingertips, unless you're prepared to actually give the platform to people outside of your thought leaders, because your thought leaders set it up. They are the brains behind the machine, and obviously it's the bread and butter of the business. But if you don't have your eyes and hearts open to telling stories that actually move people, then your brand will never get anywhere. You absolutely have to have the people who, like myself and like my colleagues, who are paid to go and find the stories of impact, whether it be through our sponsorships, whether it be through our CSI programs, whether it be through our more traditional financed vehicles where we've made a massive impact in somebody's life because of putting up a massive solar plant in the Eastern Cape. And we can talk to the mum who now, she can get to go to work and she doesn't feel dreadfully anxious about leaving her child in a dark place to do their homework all alone. It's those sort of stories that really move people. And there are so many of them. And I'm sure that Investec is not alone in this endeavor. There must be lots of stories out there that need to be told. But it just makes you feel that this is what South Africa is about. These are the people that are actually making a difference, that are building a better nation. It's not about only, the ineptitude in our leaders and the corruption that makes us all want to sort of hide under our covers every morning.
Yeah, I love it. Caroline, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. I know you're busy, and I'm hoping that anyone who hasn't listened to this series yet gets to hear about it, because it really is worthwhile. And there's such interesting things that are going on all over this country that so many people are not even aware of, and Investec's involved in so many of them. But well done to you. Please keep telling your stories, and we will keep helping to do that wherever we can. And hopefully we see you again soon. Enjoy the rest of this year as things start to wind down towards December, although I'm sure that there's no lack of work to keep you guys very, very busy at your offices. Same thing going on with us. We will see you soon.
Thank you so much, Gareth, and thank you, Cliff Central, for being a great partner on this Future Impact podcast series.
What a pleasure. Take a listen to it. It is called Future Impact. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, cliffcentral.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, Caroline. We have got just a couple of minutes left of the show this morning, and I see the breaking news that poor old Jeremy Mansfield is no more. I saw that a couple of people are reporting now, and a couple of news networks are reporting that Jeremy Mansfield died either early this morning or yesterday. So very, very sad. And lots of people passing on condolences. As I said just a short while ago, we had Sam on the show. Remember, not so long ago either.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sam Cowan, who was his longtime radio partner. This guy, he touched a lot of lives. He managed to make a lot of people smile in traffic, feel better about their day. He created characters and catchphrases that really went all the way into South African culture. And he will always be remembered. I think he's probably one of those big influences in broadcasting that you just can't replace. And he was around at a time with a show that just seems to have punched really, really hard, made an enormous difference to people's lives. A lot of people be very upset to hear that Jeremy Mansfield has passed on this morning.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what was really comforting to know was, Gareth, that you saw him recently as well, which it was all organized by Sam. And I see that the press release that the information's going out on was put together by herself. And I think it's quite amazing that she was able to have some kind of control over the narrative and how he wanted, the ending of his life to go out, because obviously it would be very public. And just take my hat off to them as well for being transparent about everything, and being the people that we are in media. We like to be transparent about ourselves, and that just helps a lot, especially when people are making up stories about why the person may not be online anymore or may not be tweeting anymore, or there's always the chance for the untruths to come in the way. And I just love the way that the two of them were just so transparent about everything right up until the end.
Well, our own Ryan says he was the voice we heard on my way into school every morning. I think that's true for a lot of people. So
that is true for a lot of us.
Sad news. Rest in peace, Jeremy, and you will be missed. I did get to spend a bit of time with him. We had a really lovely lunch not so long ago. Alan Ford was there, Aki Anastasiou, Sam Cowan. It was really special. It was good to spend some time with this guy. He was in good spirits. He made sure he absolutely extracted every last bit of happiness and joy and connection out of the little time that he had left, once he knew that there was only a little bit of time left. May we all have that kind of pleasure. May we all be able to live our lives, and when we realize like we have only one life to live, that we try and do as much as possible between this day and the one where it all ends. So very, very sad, but at the same time, at least he got to say goodbye. Some people don't say goodbye.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I don't want to labor the point, but I think he will be missed terribly much. So there we are. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for an incredible career and for all those hilarious stories, characters, voices. You will be missed. All right. That's about it, guys. That's all we got time for this morning. We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. bright and early. Have a good Monday. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.